Everyone's picking the Detroit Lions against the Green Bay Packers at Lambeau on Sunday. Here's how Green Bay can win.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. You will find Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. What time is it? Game Time. The Green Bay Packers are 3.5-point home underdogs to the Detroit Lions on Sunday. And one of the reasons is Jordan Love is a question mark to play in this game. But if you look at the underlying numbers, the point-based models, I'm a big fan of the point-based models. I didn't mean for that to sound like a certain political figure. I don't know. We don't have to go down that road, but I did feel like it veered off into that realm for a second. But I'm a big fan of the point-based models. And that's sort of right where this belongs. Now, the models also have, 2.5 Malik Willis games in there. So that's part of the calculation here too. My understanding of where this is right now is the expectation is, in Green Bay at least, that Jordan Love is going to play. I don't know about Evan Williams and Jair Alexander. We'll get to that coming up a little bit later. Offensively, though, the Packers, and I've said this before, they can win any game where Jordan Love plays and Matt LaFleur is the coach. Well, Matt LaFleur is the coach, and if we assume Jordan Love plays, the Packers are going to have a chance in this game. But it doesn't, for me, start with Jordan Love. This run defense, we talked about it yesterday with Matt Derry, has been excellent. They're top 10 in DVOA. They're top 10 in EPA per rush. But over the last 2 weeks, since Aiden Hutchinson got hurt, we talk about Aiden Hutchinson and his impact on the pass rush. But over the last 2 weeks, running backs, so we're going to take out quarterback scrambles and the specials and that stuff. Running backs are averaging over 5 yards a carry against the Detroit Lions. Now that's the Minnesota Vikings, a team that doesn't run the ball a ton, and they didn't run the ball a lot in that game 2 weeks ago. And the Tennessee Titans, a team that is running the ball with Tony Pollard and another running back I'm not even going to mention because you're not even going to recognize his name. You're going to think I made up his name, but I promise I didn't. Over 5 yards a carry. And this is a Packers rushing offense that has gotten off to a historic start over the first half of the season. In fact, the last time the Packers had a running back on pace for this many yards, it was Amon Green, the year he set the modern Packers rushing record. That's how good Josh Jacobs has been, regardless of what an ESPN article said about him. Running the ball when Jordan Love is hurt, not just because of what it does for your play action pass, but because it's going to keep you out of the third and longs where Aaron Glenn is going to try and tune Jordan Love up, is going to try and test, whether it's Jordan Love or Malik Willis, frankly. He is going to test the quarterback on third and must pass. So the Packers have to try and stay out of third and must pass, which is something they did a really good job of last week. Now, last week against a bad defense, but it was something they also did pretty well against the Colts and the Titans when they had Malik Willis in the ballgame. Can they find a version of this Packers offense against this version of the Detroit Lions defense, where they can marry everything that Jordan Love allows you to do with the passing game, with the drop back game. Let's get in the gun, 3 wide receivers set, empty. Just let's just sling it around the yard. And what Josh Jacobs, Emmanuel Wilson, even Chris Brooks allows you to do with this run game. How much can they play under center with the way that Jordan Love is moving? How much are they going to play under center if it's Malik Willis? At this point, I think it's most prudent to operate like Jordan Love is going to play, because I believe, based on what I've been told, that Jordan Love is going to play. And Jordan Love said he thinks there's a good chance they're going to play. And the other reporting, the national reporting from Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter, even early in the week, hinted at Jordan Love being able to play on Sunday. So barring a setback, let's just assume for the moment Jordan Love is going to play. If he can move like he did against Minnesota, I think that's moving well enough to move around and make plays when he needs to move off platform, and to be able to take a 3-step, a 5-step drop and make some plays. Now, can he play under center? Can he do the play action stuff? Can he move in the boot game? I wouldn't count on it. I think there could be some times selectively where they're able to go under center. They've adapted a little bit more where you get the shotgun snap, you fake that run, and then you get into some of the play action deep concepts that they like to run. I think that's a good place for this offense to be. I think ideally some of that stuff is done under center, but this is a really good safety group. I think this is, on Sunday, we will see the 2 best safety rooms in the NFL. Of the top 5 graded safeties in the league, 4 of them are going to play in this football game if Evan Williams plays. 4 of them. Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, Xavier McKinney, and Evan Williams. It's remarkable what these 2 rooms can bring to their defense, and they're huge reasons why the Packers and the Lions are the league leaders in takeaways. And that's the key to me. If the Packers don't turn the football over, and this is what happened last week, the Titans early in the game went blow for blow with this Lions team. This was in the first half, a game. And then the Titans just absolutely pooped their pants with special teams mistakes, allowing big time returns. Khalif Raymond, player of the week, given they scored 50 points and didn't even get to 300 yards of total offense. That had never happened. It's crazy to think about. It's short fields, and it was special teams. The offense actually played some good ball early on when they weren't turning it over. You can get after this Lions defense. So if you don't throw the ball to these safeties, and interestingly, that has not been a problem for Jordan Love this year. You know, the Jerry Jones interception, that's the corner making a great play. There have been, you've got the linebacker interception against the Vikings. There have been some weird things happening. The linebacker interception against the Texans off the hands of another defender. So I don't know that challenging the safeties is going to be a part of the plan for the Packers. We'll see. But if the Packers don't turn the ball over, I think they're going to be able to run the ball well enough. This run defense without Aiden Hutchinson has been an issue for the Detroit Lions. And then this is still an extremely young secondary. They're still relying on a guy like Terrion Arnold to make big plays. I don't think this is a group of linebackers that is particularly solid in the middle of the field. Now their safeties can make up for it, but you still got to tackle Tucker Kraft in space, for example. How are you going to handle Jaden Reed in the slot? What about Christian Watson deep? That was something that the Packers felt like they could exploit the last time these two teams played. Do they have an answer for Christian Watson in the slot? Do they have an answer for Christian Watson deep? Period. Do they have an answer for Jaden Reed on the specials? Jaden Reed on the orbit motion, on the jet motion, on the design touches, on the shot plays from the slot. There are a lot of ways that this Packers offense can attack this version of the Detroit Lions defense. If they don't turn it over, if they play their cleanest game of the year, they can score enough to win. Now, the question is, can they do that? Well, they should be able to protect Jordan Love well enough, at least on early downs. And if they can do that and stay out of the 3rd and 7 pluses on 3rd down, that makes it much tougher for Aaron Glenn to say, well, then what we're going to do is we're just going to blitz you and play man coverage. This is not a team really that you want to blitz and play man coverage against, because they have the guys to get open against man coverage, and they have an offensive infrastructure. Matt LaFleur, Jason Vrabel, all the, Adam Stenovich. It is an infrastructure that can eat up those sorts of opportunities when they get them. Can they do that? If they can score enough to win. The question then becomes, can they get enough stops to win? We'll talk about this defense for the Green Bay Packers next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Buying tickets can be overwhelming because how do I know when I'm ready to click buy that I'm getting a good deal? Well, Game Time has made it easy with a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Curated deals makes it easier and faster to find the best price on great seats. Plus, you get seat views before you buy and the lowest price guarantee. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference if you find a seat in the same section and row for less than they have it on Game Time. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Today's episode also brought to you by our friends at 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power you through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or an agonizing second overtime. Hopefully that is not a thing that happens on Sunday, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy shot with a special flavor called Fan Fuel, the energy shot that is made just for super fans like you. The fans who are first in the parking lot and last to leave. We see you. We see you. And we've seen plenty of great plays between the Packers and the Lions over the last few years. 5 Hour Energy knows that no matter what team you root for, probably the Packers, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. We know Lions fans that you're listening. Shout out to you. You're here. We appreciate you. Whether you're prepping for a big tailgate or ironing your jersey, your game day to-do list, low, please. Iron it on low. You don't want to melt that thing. It's always a mile long. That's why the limited edition Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy shot is here to keep you fueled throughout the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Wow, that was Wisconsin. Did you hear it? Whatever it is, do it with your 5 Hour Energy. Available at 5hourenergy.com. Shipped nationwide. If you're going to stop the Detroit Lions, you have to do two things. You have to defend the run, or they will just run it down your throat the entire game. And number two, you have to defend the middle of the field. This is where Ben Johnson wants to attack you. With Sam Laporta, with Amon-Ra St. Brown, the best thing that Jared Goff does is he throws in breakers in the middle of the field. He will rip, digs, deep overs. In breaking routes is where he makes his money, whether it's play action or not. So, how do you disrupt that? Well, you have one of the best safety groups in the league. Even if only Xavier McKinney plays in the normal safety group and it's Javon Bullard and you put Keyshawn Nixon in the slot, you're in okay shape if you're the Green Bay Packers, because Javon Bullard was playing well before he got moved to the nickel. He only got moved to the nickel so that they could move Keyshawn Nixon to the boundary. And with no Jameson Williams, you're not looking at a boundary receiver for the Detroit Lions that you're really particularly concerned about. Now, they're going to scheme up some shot plays for Khalif Raymond. That's what they do. But like Tim Patrick is not really worrying you if you're the Packers. They could scheme something up for him, but if that's what they're doing, they could do that for any receiver out there. It's not someone who you're just going like, well, one-on-one, they're gonna win that matchup. This Packers defense, run defense, is one of the best in the league, top 10 by EPA per play, for example. But they're not great in the too high shell. Well, they're best defending the middle of the field of the pass in that single high safety mode with that extra defender in the box. It's not just for run support. That extra defender is also, then they become an overhang defender versus a, deep half or deep quarter defender. That helps you defend the middle of the field. So if that's helping you defend the run, which you have to do against the Lions, and it's helping you defend the middle of the field, where the Packers are third in defensive DVOA this year, defending the middle of the field against passes, that is a defensive strategy that can get you some stops against the Detroit Lions. Now, the last piece, and Matt LaFleur talked about this yesterday, his press conference, and I thought it was almost aggressively honest, where he said, we got to pressure Jared Goff. And I know that every quarterback gets worse under pressure. Jared Goff has been better under pressure this year than over the course of his career, but every quarterback is worse under pressure than with a clean pocket. Everyone. So the goal is always to pressure opposing quarterbacks. But the way that LaFleur talked about it, it seemed to indicate the Packers' plan is to do their best to manufacture pressure if they have to. Now, ideally, you get pressure with 4. The Packers have not been adept at doing that this year, but they were able to do it last year in that Thanksgiving game. 3 fumbles that they were able to create. And that's Preston Smith creating off the edge. That's Rashawn Gary creating off the edge. Those guys are still around. I thought Preston Smith had one of his better games rushing the passer last week. Now, Taylor Decker was not in that game, and Penei Sewell was not in that game. And we saw the Packers go up against a version of this defense when they want to generate pressure. The simulated pressures that we're going to show heavy pressure and we're going to back out of it, or maybe we're going to bring a zero blitz look. Against the Vikings, Jared Goff had every answer. Now, if you're Jeff Hafley, do you say, we just dare you to do that again? We dare you to have every answer again. Maybe they do. And I would understand that perspective. And I think there are going to have to be times, especially on third down. We talked about third down earlier in the week, where the Packers have been the best third down defense, especially against the pass, in the league this year. It's not even frankly close by passer rating, for example. Can you get the Lions, though, into 3rd and 8+? You have to stop the run on early downs. And if you're going to commit to stopping the run on early downs, can you do that while also protecting yourself against play action on early downs? That is always the very narrow line that defenses have to run against teams like the Packers, the Lions, the 49ers, and others that are the Shanahan tree. Ben Johnson is not technically on the Shanahan tree, but they share a lot of similarities in terms of what they want to do. Run the ball, get into these play actions, attack the middle of the field. It's not, the true Shanahan outside zone. We're going to do everything off that and the boots and all that stuff, though they certainly do some of those things as well. Can the Packers find that balance? Now, they have the middle of the field defenders, not to eliminate, but to at least play with Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta. From a nickel player like Javon Bullard, if Evan Williams can play, to Xavier McKinney, of course, and then the linebackers. Edgerrin Cooper is coming off a Player of the Week award where he was spectacular against the Jaguars, creating big plays. He is someone who can single-handedly, with a handful of splash plays, wreck an opponent's game. So what can he give you in a game like this? If you're going to play some of those cover 2 looks, out of pressure looks, where is Jared Goff going to go in the middle of the field? And how can Edgerrin Cooper be a deterrent to those looks? Can he be that middle field post runner and generate pass breakups like he did against the Jaguars? Can he blitz and generate as a free rusher or even not as a free rusher some pressure on Jared Goff and pressure him into some mistakes. It's going to rain. It looks like. It's going to be a little chilly. It looks like. First real weather game that the Lions have played this year. First grass game they played this year. Is the footing going to be a problem? Is holding onto the ball for Jared Goff? He's got 9-inch hands. Is that going to be a problem? That's small, by the way, for those of you that don't know. In fact, among the smallest in the league among starting quarterbacks. Jordan Love has got big old mitts, 10+ inch hands. Can they get one of those just like those whiff from Jared Goff? Can they come around the corner? Carl Brooks was a breath away from one of those where he swiped the ball free. Rashawn Gary has a couple of times been a breath away from a sack fumble creation. For as important as it is for the Packers to avoid turnovers offensively, it is important for the defense to create one or two. Are you going to create 3 like you did on Thanksgiving? No, probably not. Can you create 1? Can you be +1 in the turnover game? Can you be +2 in the turnover game? If you can, you can win. If you can't, it's going to be tough. And you can't be minus. You can't be minus. So if Jordan Love is going to give the ball away, or if one of the running backs or a back is going to fumble the ball, you got to be able to make up for it on defense. You got to create a play on defense. Jeff Hafley has not seen Ben Johnson ever, has not really seen anything like this offense. So what does he got? What do you got, Jeff Hafley? This is the biggest test of his NFL career to date. And look, maybe he paints a masterpiece. We'll see. What does he have in store for Jared Goff? How is he going to attack Goff? Is it going to be more what we saw against CJ Stroud, where he's going to attack him? We thought that was what was going to be against Jalen Hurts. He didn't do that. Interestingly, either did Joe Barry, and Joe Barry actually had a lot of success, more success than the rest of the league, frankly, at shutting down this offense. You go back to 2022 even with Jared Goff. This Lions offense did not have a lot of success against the Packers. 2023, that second time around especially, they didn't do a lot of exotic stuff. Preston Smith and Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark and those boys just played really well. And they created some turnovers. And they didn't play great in that Week 4 game on Thursday night. So what does Jeff Hafley have in store? Well, it would be nice if the special teams wasn't also part of the problem. We're going to close with everyone's favorite, we-fence, I'm not going to call it that, special teams, because special teams this week more than most could have a material impact on the outcome of this game. We close out a Locked On Packers Lions week next. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets in the NFL all at once. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Packers, 3.5-point underdogs at home. I mentioned that one. You're going to get juicy odds if you're going to bet the Packers to win on the money line. That would be a nice little $5 bet to play, because then you win and then you get the $150 in bonus bets. That sure would be nice. Go to FanDuel.com, never waste a hunch, and make every moment more with FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks for making Locked On Packers your first listen. Now for your second listen, go find Locked On NFL now with 2 shows every day. First, the Madman, Tyler Rowland, kicks off your morning with a double shot of NFL espresso. Then stop by the barbershop with Tony Wiggins for some real NFL talk. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you get podcasts. We have to, this week in particular, talk about special teams, and here's why. Last week, the Detroit Lions made Khalif Raymond a player of the week candidate because of what he did in the return game. He had a 90-yard punt return touchdown. He had 190 yards total of punt returns And then Khalil Dorsey had a 72-yard kick return. This return game is real. And the Packers cannot afford to give the Lions short fields. Like against other teams, against bad teams, against worse teams, it wouldn't matter if the return game created a big one against you. But it's already the case that you're going to have problems here stopping this team. Now, the Lions against the Titans, who have a pretty good defense, they didn't have a lot of success having to drive the ball the length of the field against this Tennessee Titans defense. Again, it's going to be in the 50s. It's going to be rainy. I don't think it's going to be easy to throw the ball a bunch. So if you're going to have to run the ball, no explosive plays, or at least no 70-yard touchdowns like the Titans gave up. Now, again, in a dome. You can't give up special teams plays in this football game. You can't. Now, would it be nice if Keyshawn Nixon had one that didn't get called back for a penalty? Yeah, sure it would. It sure would. Now, I think you're getting greedy then. If you're going, okay, don't give up any big kick returns and also get one. Like now it's starting to sound like I'm talking about the Packers like they're some 15-point underdog. And this is, Ohio State against our Sisters of Perpetual Sorrow. That's not what we're doing. The Packers are one of the 5 or 6 best teams in the NFL right now. And the Lions just happen to be playing like the best team in football. So there's zero margin for error against a team that good. There just is. So you can't give up kick returns. You can't give up punt returns. So if you make special teams, the return part of special teams, a net zero in this game, you're ahead. You're ahead. Because the Lions offense, they can get these moments. They not that they rely on them, they don't, but you're doing them a favor by allowing these moments. But that also means Packer return cannot be a net negative. We can't see the Keyshawn Nixon, maybe I'll field the ball, maybe I won't. We can't see the Jaden Reed, I'm going to catch the ball at the 1 yard line for reasons that defy logic or comprehension of God or men. Unbelievably boneheaded plays by those two guys who I think, especially as returners, like for whatever issues I have with Keyshawn Nixon, as a slot corner, he's been better as a boundary corner. As a returner, I have like implicit faith he's going to make every right play. And he didn't. So you just cannot have those moments. Now, the kicking game. This is where it gets interesting. Because Brandon McManus, he's kicked in Jacksonville. Plenty of weather there. It gets rainy, no doubt. Kicked in Denver, in the snow, in the cold. He's got experience in these moments. Daniel Whelan has experience in these elements. Now, Jack Bates, the Lions kicker, he went to Arkansas. Okay, and we're talking about a first-year kicker. Is he a proven player? Not by any means. Certainly, Brandon McManus has him from a veteran and experience standpoint. Jack Bates has never been in a game this big. May not have kicked in situations like this. I think the Packers in the kicking game have a clear advantage in this game. Now, does that mean that's going to bear fruit? We'll see. But just think about that for a second. When was the last time the Packers could say that against most teams? They have an advantage in the kicking game, especially in the elements. When you're an underdog, the elements favor you because it favors variance. A little fumble here, a little missed snap here, a little slip by the kicker here. Those are the things that can win you a football game when I think these teams are pretty close. The Packers are not playing as well as the Detroit Lions, but talent for talent, player for player, coach for coach, I think these teams are pretty close. I don't know why this is being treated like David versus Goliath. If you listen to the media, the mainstream media anyway, it's like 33-23 is the scores. It's like, I understand the Lions are road favorites, but it's 3 points. The expectation is this game is something like, 27-24. Not anything crazy. Less scoring, honestly, when you look at the over-under. Like 26-23. So a kick, it could come down to that, if I could speak. And if you're the Packers, you feel like you've got the advantage there. The Lions are playing better. I'm going to stick with my pick that the Lions win. But there is absolutely a scenario where Green Bay wins, and it has to do with what we've talked about. You have to create pressure on Jared Goff. You have to create some turnovers or a turnover. You can't turn it over. And I think the Packers have the ability to run the ball, to control the clock, and that will allow them to make it easier to not turn it over because you're not going to put the ball in harm's way with the quarterback throwing it, wet ball, all those things that can go wrong there. The path is there. The game plan is there. The talent is there. Now you just got to go out and do it. We'll be live after the game on Sunday. Packers, Lions, a huge one, and then the Packers go on the bye, and some big things coming. I can't tell you about them yet, but I am very, very excited about some things that we have in the hopper here en route to Locked On Packers, en route to your feeds. So go subscribe wherever you get podcasts if you're not already. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching us on YouTube. Subscribe on all the social medias, Instagram, TikTok, all the good ones. Maybe the bad ones too, if you're so inclined to feel that way. And then we'll be live on YouTube. Go subscribe over on our YouTube page where you can stay Locked On Packers.